And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Sable's WorldForge. Oh, I forgot to take my hair down. How are you doing today? Hi, Delian, nice to see you. Hi, Walking Dead lover. If my eye looks a little weird today, I apologize. I've been dealing with an eye infection for a couple of days. I think it looks okay now, but it didn't when I got up this morning, so... Delian is doing well. He is taking a day off from mapping. I don't blame you. I imagine that drawing happy little trees can be tedious after a while. I have a painting that I'm supposed to be doing. I wonder. No, it's behind the thing. Okay, it's a peacock, right? And I'm why am I dropping a lot of frames? I'm not even doing anything. Come on now. Don't be doing this to me today. This is not good. I'm not doing anything. Okay, just a sec. I'm going to see if there's anything that's eating up my memory in the background here. I have a couple of things open, so. Well, I have like 4 copies of the Anvilite Streamer Core page open for some reason. I don't really know what I'm doing there. Oh, okay, that's, okay, there we go. That should be a little better. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I'm good, thank you, says DM Stretch, and thank you for the host, by the way. And how am I? I'm okay. I'm doing well, except that my eye has been very irritated for a couple of days. I got a cat hair in it, of course, because my brand new cat, right, Smokey, the little gray one, likes to apparently sleep on my head while I am sleeping. And I do not like her sleeping on my head while I am sleeping because then her hair gets on my pillow and I'm allergic to cat hair. I love cats, but I'm allergic to them. So I keep waking up and I'm keep like, nope, get down on the bottom of the bed, you know? But yeah, so one got in my eye. It's about as long as the width of my pinky nail. And it took all day to get out. We couldn't find it. And I guess, you know, there was some infection in it, so I've been cleaning that up. It's not fun. So I think it's better today, so that's a good thing. Darth Nicholas is good. He's working on articles at the moment. That's great. Harold's table is here. Hello, the stable people have arrived. Probably the Sable people, but that's cool. So both my cats are in here today, and I've decided that if they decide they want to leave during the course of the broadcast, then the tax for leaving will be that I am showing them to you guys. So that's the deal. I'm not going to wake them up, but Walking Dead Lover says, Kitty says, I shall not be told where to laze. I know. She's moved right in, that one. She was a little fraidy cat at first. This is the one that we coaxed from being a stray, remember? Right? Well, now she'll invite herself into my lap, and never mind if I have a laptop in it or not. You know, very, very cat. Today she brought in a garden snake, which she had killed, and was playing with it on the living room floor. That's love. Yeah, it sure is, isn't it? I just love it. Yeah, they're yeah, it's good to have fur babies. I like it. It's not a home without them, you know? Yeah. Hey, Barbaro says here, welcome. Good to see you. All right. Yeah, so today I'm going to start a new manuscript because I've decided that I am moving my long form Toy Soldier Saga stories over to manuscripts. I've pretty much already done that with my Weird West stuff. It's just that I haven't deleted the long form prose articles. And I thought I'd start by giving a comparison of kind of the differences between how things are presented in the prose templates if you want to do fiction on a larger scale, right? And why I think it's perfectly cool and even desirable for short stories. Oh, you okay, kitty? Hairball? Yeah, I'm not worried about it. That's the older one. That's Scooter. He won't puke that out on my bed. So, yeah. Harold's Table says, fellow Age of Sail world maker. Awesome. Fellow Age of Sail world maker is great, isn't it? It's such a unique period of history and technology, and the clash of technology and faith and empires, and there's so much you can do with it, and it's just not as popular as medieval or Renaissance high fantasy. So there's, I think, a little bit more room to explore ideas that may not have been as well explored, and that's fun. Right. She's watching Harold. She's coughing up the steak. No, it's the older cat, Scooter, the male cat, who is hacking. And besides the point, I know exactly where the snake corpse is because it's still on my floor. Yeah, Harold, Harold says exactly why I picked it. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Barbarossa has a highlighted message. He says, my world has recently taken a change. I've started focusing less on just the Age of Sail aspect and focusing more on empires and states within the world. I know this goes against normal campaign philosophy, the one where you build only what you need, but I don't have a real central focus in this world yet, and I don't even know what states are yet, so I'm going to start working on that and building myself outward. No, that makes sense to me, because if you're going to write about a conflict in an age of sail and empires, you got to know the empires. And if you don't know their motivations and what they're trying to accomplish, right, then you're not going to be able to. I mean, I realize we were all telling you in the Discord chat to like stick with the area you're working on, but if politics are a thing in your world, then you've got to understand the politics. So I think you're doing it right, and that's cool. I loved your image for Queen Lorraine. That's great. Walking Dead Lover says, that's kitties for you. They love laptops and your laps. Yep, they don't see any reason why, if you have something in your hands, you shouldn't be dropping it and paying attention to them. It's cool that way. Yeah, Harold's agreeing with me. Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's a good idea if you're going to approach it from that perspective. As always, guys, whatever I'm doing today, feel free to ask questions or, comment. Ask me about things you'd like to know related to writing and world building. I'd be happy to do what I can to help. Right? So, yes. Yes, Siobhan says Barbarossa, the pick was perfect. Barbarossa was playing around in Artbreeder and managed to make a picture that looks very much like our lovely Lorena Lay's profile picture, and except it's got like a crown and it looks great. It looks really great. All right, so I'm gonna get started on this stuff. Let's see here. Maine, did I capture anything? Well, it's capturing the right thing, so good. Right, so hopefully I'm going to switch back and forth between worlds here just to make sure I'm on the right world, because I don't think I am. Yeah, that was the Anvilite Streamer Core stuff, so I must have been doing map stuff last time I was here. Wait, no, I wanted to be in Weird West first to begin with anyway. Okay, so I'll switch back to Weird West. Because first I want to show you a comparison so that you can make an informed decision about the best way to present your stories that you want to present them on World Anvil. I'm going to start by saying that from an overall observation, having done a couple different things now, in my opinion, short form fiction is might be best served as prose articles, or you can double them up as a prose article and a manuscript if you want. But long form fiction is definitely better as a manuscript, right? And I will show you why I think that. Aha! So the older cat has decided he would like to leave. Scooter is exiting the building. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to go grab him and we're going to show him to you. And then he can leave. Just a sec. Can I take you for a minute before I let you out? Old man? Yeah? Yes. This is my fur baby. I need to be over here so you can see him. As you can see, he is tolerating being lifted up by me. Because, that's how he do. He is an amputee. He only has 3 legs. He's missing one of his back legs, which is why I hold him like this. It makes him feel more secure. I am holding him. Yeah, I can see from here Walking Dead Lover says, I want to cuddle the cute fluffy bean baby. Yeah, he's very snuggly. He's fluffy. He's got that kind of fur that attracts like every burr. And the kind of personality where he gets into it too. Okay, buddy. You can go out now. Thank you for letting me show you off. Bye, friends. Away you go. Yeah, Smokey, now that she has become an inside cat, is like, outside's for peasants. I go out there to occasionally attack things, but if there's the slightest wind, rain, it's too hot, whatever, she's like, screw this, I'm back in the house, and she sleeps on my bed, which is just fine by me. So, alright, so what did I miss while I was grabbing the baby? Harold says to Barbarossa, my world has intrigue in it, spies in the settlement cities. What are their motives? Well, you can only know that if you understand the, quote, European powers, or whatever you are using to be kind of your equivalent of the empires that are fighting over things. There's other periods of imperial expansion and sailing technology in Earth's history too. Although the technology, like these are more ancient periods generally, a little older, so the technology, of course, is nowhere near the same as it is during the Age of Sail. But like if you look at the history of the Carthaginians, right, they were very much a sea power. Right, the Hanseatic League was an important sea power. There's a whole thing about the Barbary Coast if you're looking to explore more in the history of Africa, which people do not do enough. There's some really interesting shit that goes on there. It's just that their big age of empires happened long before the European age of empires, right? So, that is worth a look if you're looking for some really unique inspiration for your world building. I've been watching YouTube videos on it and learning quite a lot, because it's not like North American history classes teach a hell of a lot about it, which I think is yeah, I realize there's a limited time to teach everything, but, yeah. But we could have spent a little time on it, We could have spent a little time on it. Yeah. Siobhan says, I am not the only one writing her in, and I described her similarly. And then that is our Lorraine Allay. She has become a character in at least 3 or 4 different worlds now that I'm aware of. So that's, because she's awesome and deserves to be immortalized. So there you go. Siobhan says, I guess I'm doing long form. Yes, you are writing a novel. That is long form fiction. So I'll show you the differences, and I'll explain why I think what I think. Siobhan says he needs a lap to lay on and yours is too short. Yeah, that's a fact, actually. Siobhan comes over, right? He doesn't like laying in my lap. He doesn't feel secure enough, right? Because he can only grip with the one back leg, right? And he, of course, is a very polite cat and doesn't want to dig his claws into my often bare legs. So, but Siobhan has much longer legs than I do, so he comes over and, she comes over and he sits in Siobhan's lap, right? So it's fun. Why in the hell would the bot block that? That's ridiculous. Okay. I don't understand even what logic it used to do that. Okay. Harold says 3 legs because you don't eat or because you don't eat a really cool cat like that all at once. He was also a stray. We got him from the Animal Rescue Society several years ago, not long after my husband's accident. And it's because we saw him on their Facebook group, and a friend of ours was like, hey, look, it's another ginger amputee, right? Naturally, we had to go get him, right? Apparently, he was the victim of a lawnmower accident, the poor guy. Tough bastard of a cat, though. He's my grizzled old fighter, He's a tough one, and I like him for that. Yeah, Curiosity Stream is only 20 bucks a year. Yeah, actually, looks like they've got some great stuff on there, and I've been thinking about checking it out. And that is referring to, I imagine, my discussion of there's so many interesting things going on in the history of Africa, and we don't know anything about it. Yeah. Oh, thank you for the posture check. Yep. Oh, that's why. Some people watch too much porn, I think. It held a comment because the word facial was in it, facial features. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even, it didn't even occur to me that why until after it told me that was the word it was holding it for. I'm like, okay. So don't make making any comments about the porn you watch in my chat, okay? I mean, like, it's all good. I no judgment for me, but you know, yeah, we don't need that. Um, yeah. Walking Dead's like, I'm done talking in this chat. Block me over nothing wrong. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Greeks, Norsemen, sea powers. Yeah, absolutely. Walking Dead says he reminds me of the other cats I used to have. Same facial structure, and that is what it held. Ridiculous. AJ is here. Hi, AJ. Nice to see you. Welcome. Okay, redeemed hydrate. Thank you. Always helpful, Barbarossa. I appreciate that. Yeah, I know. I don't understand it at all. That's just absolutely okay. Well, actually, I do understand it. I do understand it, but okay. Harold says I got a lot of my Norman history and amazing documentary on the history of monasteries. Monasteries are so interesting. So much interesting stuff going on there. Barbarossa says, I'm gonna have a very interesting day at work. I just realized I drank an entire pot of coffee today, half of which was in my coffee cup on the drive to work. Yes, you're going to need a lot of runs to the facilities, I'm sure. Barbarossa says, I'm actually studying the Venetian Republic as well as Genoa and the late Hellenistic. Good idea. Those are good sources of inspiration for sea power empires. What are we up to today? We are up to comparing prose and manuscripts and how both can be used in World Anvil, and why I believe that manuscripts is definitely the way to go for long form fiction, but prose may be better for short form fiction. So that is the plan today. Yeah, Time Team is a good show, I agree, guys. Yet very interesting seeing the day-to-day nitty-gritty archaeology. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. You pick up little facts that you didn't know about the time period that they're studying, right, as they go, which is even more interesting. The stuff that they don't tell you in the history book, right? The stuff that you usually have to read historical fiction to find out, So, yes, that's cool. Delian says, I want one of them cups that Jamie Buckley has. I agree with you. Well, I almost have that. I almost have that. You can't tell how big that is compared, but okay, this is like a smallish coffee cup by comparison, right? It's not the usual size of my coffee cup. I usually use a larger mug, but there you go. So, this is like our first experiment with Toy Soldier Saga merch. And speaking of Jamie, that's his art. So, okay, I love experimental archaeology, Siobhan. She says experimental archaeology is cool too. Experimental archaeology is how we find out all the stuff where people say, I don't really understand how the hell they did that. Let's play with the stuff that we have and find out. And then we learn things like the weird positions of fighters illustrated in medieval combat manuals are actually stop motion photography, except it's art, right? It's the process of a motion that they're usually displaying, not the beginning or the end of the exercise, but something in the middle that encapsulates the important maneuver that they have to make in order to accomplish the method, right? Or things like how Lorraine was talking about that we now know that Roman cement was made with seawater, and that is how the formula works. And if you use fresh water, it doesn't work. And they never wrote that it was seawater because for them, that was common bloody sense. So, yeah. Harold says you learn things like how they would have decorated castles that you can't see in the movies because things like tapestries and plaster are long gone. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know about the operational castle construction in France? I did. I haven't, I've heard about it. I haven't really seen a lot of information on it. If you've got a link to share, Harold, feel free because I'm sure that nerds like us would all love to know, right? But I did hear about it. Okay, now that I have caught up in the chat, I am going to go to what we are doing here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, this is in my Weird West world, and I'm going to show you what I've got so far because I have I have published the first chapter, which was the first story of the Weird West Chronicles, to be read by the public, right, in prose. Right, so I will show you the presentation view first. This is how I started it out. This is my landing page here. And I just kind of created a general landing page with the book cover and, you know, the blurb and the publishing information and all that stuff and some reviews. Okay, a few reviews. I had some good reviews. I was very proud of them. These here are the individual chapters, as it were, the parts within the part. And there are 9 of them. Now, I think this looks actually fine. This is a longish, long form or short form fiction because this is a novelette. It's about 8,000 words. So this might be pushing the limits of what works best with prose, right? So there's my first chapter bit. Now, I think the presentation on this looks very nice. And it's not like I had any problems with working with it. I like the expanded bit. I found that in order to do navigation that I thought was easy to follow, that I had to put the rest of the links for each chapter, each part down here. Okay, I'm going to link to subscribe to my Patreon, which is how you get all my fiction. Right, and then links to buy books if you want. And but okay, so this is part 1, and then notice that I have the linear navigation here. This goes back to the landing page, that goes back to the landing page, that goes to chapter 2. Right, so I think this presentation looks really good. I like it. Now, the problem is that, you know, you have to add some, if you've got more than one part that's going to appear on one page, right, you have to add a lot of internal navigation in order to make it easy to find, I think. Right, so that's how that looks there. Right, I think that for comparison, I will switch over to the Toy Soldier Saga, right, and show you what an actual short story looks like if you haven't seen it yet. So let's see. Articles and categories. How am I doing on my frames? Fine. Just slow for some reason. Okay, so this is a much shorter story. This is the one I wrote for the Conlang challenge. The Conlang took considerably longer than the story did. Tooltips. That gives the pronunciation of that phrase. Then here's a link to the language that I conlanged. think I gotta do something about my codex, put it in an allowed box or something, because... And then notice also you get this stuff, right? Like you can see that these things here, except for the places that actually have a link, like these are my patrons, right? Who I give credit to in everything I do, right? And the ones that have World Anvil sites, I have a link to, right? But the ones that don't, I don't have a link to, and this just blends into the lightness of the prose, right? So that can be a problem because often your prose is designed to look lighter than your regular theme, and therefore it can be very difficult to see some things on it, right? So, but overall, I think that's a better way to approach it because it's all on one page. You can do fancy things to it. You know, you can do these kind of links, right? That kind of stuff. So, however, okay, I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek at something. In the meantime, I'm going to catch up on the chat here. AJ says, I believe they have a YouTube video on the current construction, the operating castle. That's great. Hello, Esong. Good to see you. Aha, we have a wiki link. Okay, I'm going to fire that up to make sure that I get a chance to look at it after. So that's the working castle construction. Thank you for that. I will look at that more thoroughly in a bit. We were here. Okay, Barbarossa, E. Songbird asked what we're exploring today. Manuscripts versus the prose template is what we're looking at today. And I'm starting a new manuscript, so I will be able to demonstrate kind of how it works if people haven't used it yet. Barbarossa says, so I was doing some writing on ideas. One thing I began working on was the history of Manavares. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The heart of my... I know the word, but I've only ever seen it in print, right? Thalassocratic, which means it's ruled by sea power, mercantile empire, Cyrene or Kyrene, and I came to an interesting idea. Cool. I'm talking about my book, yes, but I'm doing it only in terms of comparing the tools, right, and how things look. So I'm sorry if I'm not intending any self-promo here, right? Yeah. Okay, Esong says, ooh, I've got the short digital excerpt of Amazon and need time to find to read it. Well, thank you for picking that up, and I hope that you like it. And that was Esong. Held a message for hostility. It's weird what people think are hostility. I don't know. It's so strange. Okay. I will, of course, allow your message, Barbarossa. I'm sorry about that. I don't understand why that is a problem. Oh, I said I allowed it. Where'd it go? I don't see it now. I'm sorry, Barbarossa. You may have to retype that one. I'm confused. I don't know why it disappeared. Harold says, do you have to be a certain guild level to put in Ko-Fi and Patreon links? No. What that is just a tool that in your profile where you add that information and it will automatically include it in your worlds. Let me show you, actually, because that's simple enough. I will show you. It is fun. Okay, going up here to my ridiculous number of messages I have to look at. We'll go to its profile settings is what I'm looking at. So this is all the stuff that I put in the profile. I've got some custom content, my location, all this stuff, Twitter username, Pinterest. this is what you need right here. In this bottom part here, at the bottom of all your social media stuff in editing your profile, you have your Ko-Fi username and your Patreon username. And this will automatically include it wherever there is a link to do that, right? So I don't believe that Ko-Fi or coffee, I think it's supposed to be coffee, but nobody ever calls it that where I am. So, okay, but the coffee site, I think, only appears on your world landing page, right? Or articles that you have written, and it doesn't post on link or articles that, like Aaron, for example, writes in my world, right? I think it posts the Patreon link to the world, but it doesn't post the coffee link, which makes sense because if you're giving a coffee donation to Aaron, right, then you're giving it to him for his creativity. But if you're supporting the project, then you're supporting the world, right? So let me double check that and make sure that that's right. But that's the information. That's where you want it. It's in your profile settings. Now, I don't know if that's available to Freeman because I don't know, but I know for a fact that if you can use the themes, then you can have that, right? And I'm pretty sure that it links the Patreon to your manuscripts regardless of guild level. I'm pretty sure. All right, so I'm going to compare here. This is one of Aaron's articles, The Shadow Propagandists. Yeah, so it's got the Patreon, right, and the Discord, right, but it doesn't have the coffee link, right, because that would be my personal coffee link. On the other hand, but I'm not sure that appears in the articles anyway. So the Second Interstellar War is my article. It's please excuse the state of unfinishedness that it is in, but the point is just to have a look at the social buttons there. Yeah, so here I've got the Patreon and the coffee because that's my coffee account. So, and it just automatically puts that in depending on what we've put in our profiles. If Aaron had a coffee site, it would put a link to his coffee. Sorry, Barbarossa, for the bot. Also right about the Avalonian Empire. Is that what you meant? Esong says, conlanging, there's something I have great respect for, sometimes aspire to, and always run away from. Okay, conlanging, that was my first conlang, like my first total conlang. I've made up words in both the Avalonian and Orcish languages, right, in the course of writing the books, but they're like a couple of words here and there, right? It was not, I had not created the whole language. I think you've got to be pretty dedicated to want to do it. It's a lot of work, even with the easy design tool, right? The one that they recommend is called Vulgarlang, yeah, vulgar.com, I think is where it's at, or vulgarlang.com, one of the two, right? And conlangers don't like it because, like the people who are serious about it, because it creates kind of clunky languages, right? But it's good enough for a writer if you're trying to write something serious, in my opinion, right? Unless you're Tolkien and you're designing your whole world around your language. I do not have time for that shit, right? So vulgar it is. Vulgar is what I use to create my Orcish language. I now have to create my Avalonian language, and I really feel like I need it because at this point the Orcish language has much more richness than the Elven language, and I need to kind of balance that out because a cultural shock comparison between the two cultures is a very important plot point, right? And it's a theme. So I'm going to do it. I have I know what I'm doing more now, so I think this will turn out better when I sit down to do it. you have to kind of know a little bit about linguistics. There are terms that even with the guide through, it will not explain to you. You have to kind of look them up. They give you a brief explanation, but it's insufficient. You need to, like, I find that I needed to do a little bit more detailed research to understand what was meant, right? So yeah, it's ambitious, right? Maps are easier, in my opinion. If you're interested in learning more about what makes a good and a bad conlang, there's a guy I recently discovered on YouTube. He's called the program's called Conlang Critic. Just a second here. It's on my other computer, so I'll reach over and have a look and see what his channel name is. Jan Misali, I think is his name. So I'll just Jan Misali. If anybody's looking for him, and it's called Conlang Critic, right? And he goes through and critiques different created languages. They've generally got two focus. He calls them either an interlang, which means it's a language that was created to bridge the gap between a bunch of different languages. It was intended to be used as kind of an international language, right? Or the art lang, right, which is something that was created for a novel or a movie or whatever, right? And he judges them by different criteria, right? And but the thing is, you have to know a little bit about the linguistics background first, because if you don't know what a phoneme or a diphthong is, he's not going to stop and explain it to you, right? So, but it's really cool, because if you have that, then it gives you an idea of what's good and bad. And I've determined that my Orcish language is horrific, and that's really okay actually, because it suits them, right? Um, while I'm looking at the rest of the chat here, basically the premise is that like orcs came from a very fractious tribal society, and they came together to form the Fomorian Empire, right? So the fact that their language includes like almost all the consonants and a bunch of vowels, which is that makes the language very difficult to learn, by the way. That's probably fine, because they had to kind of come together with all of their different influences from their different tribes and cultures and try to create a common language, right? On the other hand, when the Avalonians went to the stars for the first time, the elves and their associated peoples, right, they had a common language because they had an empire, right? And so what has happened is that their common language has diverged in different places depending on how isolated the community is, history, etc., right? But it's basically the same, it's just different dialects. So that is a much less complex language, oddly. Yes. Yes. Yikes, that would be tough, making up your own language. It's a bit. It's a bit. Yeah, Barbarossa says vulgar lang is fun but random AF. Random as fuck. Yeah, it is, and you kind of have to understand how its interface works so that you can plug in the right things. Otherwise, you'll get some very weird stuff that doesn't make sense for what you initially laid out. Ultimately, I was happy with what I came up with, but it was a lot of work. Yeah, Vulgarlang is a free conlanging software, yes. Hello, For No Raisin. Nice to see you. You've probably been here for a few minutes now while I yapped. Welcome. Siobhan is sleepy but can't sleep. Harold hurries to work on that while he listens. Cool. Good luck. It's a lot of fun. I think it's fun. Yeah, it just is a lot of work. Barbarossa. This is the one that was blocked for whatever reason. Minervarius, now called Minervaries, makes sense. That's an interesting evolution of a name. Survived a lot of the sacking and looting that many cities of the old Imperium suffered because of its last leader. Its leaders stopped the military forces and poisoned advisors that were a risk to the peace, and then ordered the slaves freed. Good for them. Initially, he did this to spare himself, but he also did so at great risk because the empire hadn't collapsed yet, and there wasn't any sign it was going to until 2 years later. Wow, that's sudden. Oh, and we have a BBC documentary on the castle here. Cool. Okay. You know what? I'm going to look that up on YouTube later without clicking the link just because I don't want to get copyright dings. And they can be titchy. Siobhan reminds me that I can find that out by going to Core Agenda. Okay, because that's her world. Well, let's do that and see what shows up there. Core Agenda, because I know that Siobhan has both a Ko-fi and a Patreon account. That did not show up. Why did it not show up? Well, probably it isn't in the system yet because it's fairly new. Maybe I can get there by Barbarossa's page. He linked something. Probably a liked article. Yes, that is where. Okay. Druids of Core Agenda. There you go. So yes, that is available to Freeman too. As you can clearly see, both of her Patreon and Ko-fi links, which you can support if you want to support her world, by the way. Harold promised to send Barbarossa a link to a channel that he likes about 18th century life. I'll take that link too if you don't mind, Harold. That would be helpful to me as well. I guess that's popular because Esong said basically the same. Tag me too. Post in the Discord. Would you mind? That would be awesome. Harold agreed Tolkien was a linguist anyway. Yes. And so for him, the approach of designing the language first and then having that help him design the culture and the history made sense because he understood linguistics and he understood how language evolves and he approached it from that direction. And if you have that expertise, hey, why not, right? But I don't. I have an amateur interest in languages. I like to learn them enough that I can at least basically communicate. But, you know, I don't have his background. I thought about pursuing that as a career at one point, but I never did. Yeah, that's why he wrote his book, says E. Songbird. Exactly. AJ said, or no, not AJ. Okay. Yeah, Siobhan says, oh, so English is an interlang. Yeah, it is, actually. And I think that there were a lot of efforts to create international languages, interlangs, over the course of, like, at least the 20th century. And I think the reason why they didn't go very far is because we already have one that's fairly widely spoken, and that's English. English always was a trade language. It's not a real language, you know? It was always designed to be a trade language between people. So it's, and because it's pretty widely spoken already, it has basically served that purpose, right? So, yeah. Aegon says, I would never have time to work on a full language. Vulgar lang works for the time I have. Yeah, me too. Exactly. Right? Not publishing, so only needs to work in my RPG games. I think it's perfectly fine to use it in books, right? Most readers, there are a few like dedicated nerds out there who are going to take you down, right? And to them, I will say, I don't have time for that shit. If you want things to be perfectly realistic on every subject, right? I don't know. I don't know who has the time or money to get that kind of education. You happen to know more about this particular little thing. Good for you. Congratulations. You're the smartest person in the room. I don't care, right? I have a book to write. So, yeah, right? It will do for most readers. It will give it a sense of depth and realism that your readers will generally appreciate if you want to go through that kind of effort. Right? It's still a lot of effort, even with vulgar lang, right? Creating it from scratch. Yeah, I admire people who can do it, but I don't have the time. DM Stretch says, well, I finally kicked the dust off today and started writing my new campaign. Congratulations, that's excellent. Got 771 words written so far, and it's only 3 sessions planned out. If you've got 3 sessions planned out already in less than 1,000 words, my hat's off to you, sir. Because could I do that? No, I would have to write much more than that. Toblin is probably one of World Anvil's best conlangers. He might be. He did, after all, win the conlang challenge. So, and he deserved it. It was amazing. Right? So, definitely recommend that you go check out his work if you're interested in conlanging. Yeah. Barbarossa's off to work. Thank you for joining me, Barbarossa. Have a great day. I hope that you have a really nice and easy day at work and there's not a lot of stress. Delian says, I still need to figure out something for Patreon, probably. Something mappy and hopefully useful. Yes, yes. Do you guys want me to do a Patreon planning session for one of these streams one of these days? Because I fumbled around with it a lot, and then I started doing things for World Anvil and focused on World Anvil, and that is when my Patreon, my Patreon covers my membership and my husband's too, and there's still a small profit left over, right? Because my patrons are awesome and they never responded to anything as much as they responded to World Anvil. So I know it can be done, right? And I don't know, if that's something people are interested in, I can always do a stream about that, kind of show you around my Patreon, how I came up with what I came up with, the process of, like, for instance, I've got a lot of digital goods because I don't have a lot of money, right? So I don't really want to promise shipping a lot of physical goods, but I do have some, right? For the higher level memberships generally, right? And I've designed it to do stuff that I also want to work on, right? But it offers it as a reward to my patrons for their support. So it works out. If that's like something you guys think would help, I can do that. I can help you with that. Harold says I posted in Guild Hall for you all. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's great. I've been told that Middle Earth was a showcase for the languages, says Harold. Yeah, pretty much, right? That's where he started, right? And every writer gets their inspiration in different ways, but that for him is where he started. For him, inventing the language invented the world and its history. So it really can, right? So languages can be a very useful tool for world building that, I recommend. But Siobhan says, but the guild hall is unavailable to me because I'm a freeman. Yep, so he'll DM her. Great, thank you for that. Hey, Dinosaur Bob, welcome. Nice to see you. You are here. DM Stretch says, haha, just the outline. Each session will be expanded. Oh, good luck, Harold. Okay, Delian says that would be cool. All right. This Patreon stream, sure, can do. Harold says, pray for me, people. I have to go to the store. Good luck. Wear your mask. Wash your hands or use your hand sanitizer. And never mind if the other yahoos there are not. Yes, please, says Dinosaur Bob. Siobhan would appreciate it. Okay. Esong says, I'm not going to set up my own Patreon, but I'm up to learning more. Okay, cool. Well, that's more than enough support, so we will do that. Let's plan that for next Sunday, right? That's something that probably should be a WorldForge stream, so that's where we'll do it. Okay, prayer sent Harold. May you avoid any Karens that cross your path. And Siobhan's like, wear your mask too. Yes. Yes, may your God save you from Karens. I love that there's a name for this now. That particular, I realized that I'm, aside from my social class, right? I'm a white middle-aged woman, right? And I probably fall in that demographic, except that I'm not. I'm poor, so I don't, right? But that mentality, I've known it my whole life. They wreck perfectly good things a lot, right? They're kind of the bane of my life, and I love the fact that there's a name for this now. I feel bad for all the friendly Karens out there. Yes, I totally agree. Yeah, I do. Friendly, nice people named Karen really do have a crappy deal there. And I've known some lovely Karens. My husband's physiotherapist was a Karen. That was her name, and she's not a Karen. She's a lovely person. So, okay. We caught up, so we're going to go back to work here. Now, comparing prose and manuscripts. That is what we were doing. Right? So I showed you the shorter story in that section. I will now show you the longer one that I did. Well, okay, actually, yeah, I'll show them both to you because they give you an idea. This one is a novella. This is called The Queen's Dirk. This is also available to the public to read. And it's kind of like a preview of an important event that happens in the first novel, right? So, and again, I just love the presentation. I think it's really beautiful. And this is the first part. I'm just kind of scrolling through so you guys can get a feel of what it looks like in the presentation. Right, I did the same thing down here. Provided links. Yeah, I've really got to do something about my world box. This didn't look like this in Weird West because I put in a loud box around it and made it really dark. So I think I'll do the same thing here. This the Toy Soldier site needs an overhaul in CSS this month anyway. So then here's, in this one I didn't create a landing page. Here's the first part, right? And then I've got the other 4 parts here, right? And if you click on any one of them, right, you'll get the same kind of system because I'm kind of the person who's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if I find a system that works, I'll stick with it, right? So see, then I've got Miss the Beginning, part 1 here, part 2 there. You know, I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to navigate because it's difficult to set up the navigation. And that's part of what I'm talking about in terms of, like, in order to make it readable and accessible by everybody, right? If you've got more than one part you're going to put on one page, you really have to be creative with the navigation. So I've created a bunch of different options. And I guarantee you, I'm still going to find someone who is going to read this and go, how do I get to the next part? Because people have different processes and different ways of looking at things, right? So you'll never catch everybody with one thing, right? So yeah, so I've got you can go back here. There's one thing I do to navigate, right? Then I've got the links down here to the parts you haven't read yet. Then I have, you know, the codex here, right? And then there's back to home, right? There's back to the last part. There's ahead to the next part. Okay, so that's workable, right? With a 5-part novella, that's okay. Now, let's have a look at my novel, which you guys are going to get this sneak preview. Normally this stuff is only visible to patrons, so I'm not terribly worried about it though, because there's not much you're going to be able to read in the brief glimpse I'm going to show you. So this is my landing page, which is fine. I've got a book trailer and an old cover, right? And stuff like that. And then what I'm going to do, or what I planned to do, was start with each part. Now, there are something like 5 different parts in this novel. The novel is about 160,000 words, so it is a big one, right? Then you'd have to click on the different parts, right? And I never was happy with a way to title it that made sense. All right, so here's the part, the dedication, and then the chapters. And obviously I've been neglecting this page because I should have put a bunch of links to the other chapters here too. But you can see this is already getting out of hand, right? There's 8 chapters in this part. Those are all going to look like those other prose chapters, right? These are prose articles, right? Now my landing pages I made with the standard article template, and I will probably eventually save them as template articles, or maybe I won't now because I'm probably moving them over, right? But see, now in the chapters, I have the linear navigation to the things you haven't read yet, except again, I'm not very good at keeping up to date because I have a chapter 8 in there that I obviously forgot to put in every part. And that's the other thing, the constant updating of each article, right? I'm finding it a lot of extra work that I don't think I need to do. Now I'm going to show you why I don't think I need to do it, because we're going to look at the manuscripts. I'll scroll back while that's loading. Drat will have to watch after work then, says Siobhan next week. Yeah, I'm sorry I can't make everybody happy. Siobhan's laser tech is named Karen. Esong says, curious how that became the name for that mentality. You know, it's kind of a surprise to me too. For me, that would have been Jennifer, you know, where I grew up, right? The Jennifers tended to be that sort, you know. I think it came from some article about, you know, somebody who'd had bad experiences with people named Karen, and she was all like, hey, if you've ever, you know, I feel like Karen is the name for that attitude, and it just stuck because of that. Esong says, off topic, anyone have a good documentary for Russian history or culture? The person you need to hit up is Barbarossa, and he unfortunately just left because he had to go to work. But ping him on what our like on my Discord, or you know, I'm sure he wouldn't mind if you sent him a DM, right? Because he's been doing a lot of research into that for another world that he's been creating, and he happens to know a lot about it. So that's who you want to talk to, Esong. That's the guy. Siobhan says, of course, the male Karens are Kens. Have we decided on Ken as the name? I thought that was still kind of up in flux there. Esong says, interesting. I've only heard them called Karen, which brings out an interesting point about sexism. Yes, it really does, doesn't it? You notice we have a name for that kind of woman long before we have a name for that kind of man, right? Yeah, I could not help but notice that either. I'll tell you what else I noticed. I noticed that during the presidential election, right, one of the candidates was Trump and the other candidate was Hillary, right? Why was she not Clinton, right? And if she wasn't Clinton, why was he not Donald? You know, I think it, I'm no fan of Hillary Clinton and her politics, but I think it displayed a definite double standard in respect. Anyway, yes. We need to work on that stuff, I think. Yeah. Delian says, any part of Russian history in particular? Good question. DM Stretch says, I think it was in fact named after a certain person that was like that, and her name was Karen. Now it's just stuck, I think. I think there was some kind of an opinion piece that, or a Twitter post that you know, somebody was writing just to be kind of funny, and it stuck for that reason. I'm not entirely sure. Esong says, not sure, Delian, looking for cultural inspirations that aren't European, and realize that Russia has to have a huge cultural background that I know nothing about. It's a very interesting place for sure. Just wanting to explore for inspiration. If you have another culture that you found inspiring, though, feel free to recommend. Kidoi Poi says, I thought it was Chad was our Karen name. No, because Chad has its own connotations that are established in the incel community. So, yes, I know more than I should about these things. Okay. DM Stretch says, yeah, the term, it seems the term came from a Reddit user. Ah, okay, whose wife was named Karen. She left him and took the kids. He changed his Reddit name to Fuck You, Karen. Censored by me to get around the bot. I don't blame you for censoring to get around the bot. I probably would allow that term. I'm not terribly bothered by people swearing. I swear all the time. If people start swearing at me or anybody else, I really don't mind just going over and banning forever. So, Yeah, I ended up with a moderator bot after I installed MooBot. It was not quite this moderated before. Okay, Esong says, I understand that's because she never really wanted to be a Clinton. She added Clinton to her last name when her husband was running for president, but never really wanted to take his name. Okay, well, what was her maiden name's Bonham, right? Why weren't we calling her Bonham then? You know, I agree with you. I see that, but, you know, I didn't take my husband's name. My name is Diane Morrison. His name is Aaron McCroy, right? So I answer to Mrs. McCroy and he answers to Mr. Morrison, and we don't argue about it. And there was no stress with that, by the way. Just FYI. There's no reason why that has to be done. Yeah. About the Trump Hillary thing, says DM Stretch, maybe to differentiate between Hillary and Bill. I figured that too, but still, right? To some degree, yes. When Justin Trudeau ran for prime minister the first time, right, everyone called him Justin and they didn't call him Trudeau. And in part, that was, but you see, it's mixed, right? In part, it's because he's the first prime minister in history who's actually like a second generation prime minister. His father, Pierre Trudeau, was a famous or infamous prime minister in our history, depending on who you talk to, right? And so big shoes to fill. And I think in part it was to try to demunitize him. He's also one of our youngest prime ministers ever, right? But over time that went away, and now he's just Trudeau, especially among the conservative haters, which I find amusing. So Esong says it also separates her from her husband as an individual. Yeah, that's true. You know, yeah, because Trump reinforced that, says Bob. Well, it's just a question worth considering, right? Delian says, I research Uralic peoples occasionally due to my linguistic relation to them. Makes sense. Conti and Mansi are pretty cool and not known about enough. I have never even heard of them, and I try to learn more. So if you ever want to share information on that, Delian, feel free. That would be great. It was Trump that propagated the Hillary nickname, says Dinosaur Bob, and he did it for precisely the reason you point out. It's condescending. I don't know. I know enough about language to know that language has a bearing on the way we think about things, right? So I unpack stuff a lot, and maybe it's just me. I'm being a little, I sound like I have one of those ridiculous soapboxes. Why am I fighting over this thing? Okay, but I've said this and I mean it, right? The day that you're acting like a pussy or you throw like a girl stops being an insult is the day we actually have gender equality. Until that happens, you're lying. It ain't, right? So that's my theory there. Yeah, and it's because that means that we've changed the way we think about it as well as the way we act, right? E. Songbird says something that's true to me was Hillary was asked if she really wanted to be president because it would take away time from her grandkids. Uh-huh. I don't know if any other presidential nominee was asked that, including Romney, who has like 3 generations worth of grandkids in one generation. Yeah. And then Siobhan says, if I get you throw like a girl, I just say thanks. You know what I say is no kidding. Yeah. If they're really an asshole, I might add, too bad you don't throw like a man. But yeah, no, yes, she got asked all kinds of questions like that. Her fashion choices were analyzed, her hairstyle was questioned, her emotional state was portrayed as being less together, right? Her personal behavior was more analyzed. I mean, there's no question that sexism was a factor None at all. I don't like her at all. I don't agree with her politics, right? If I lived in the United States, I frankly would have voted for Bernie Sanders all the way. I vote NDP here in Canada. It's pretty much the same perspective, right? So I can put my money where my mouth is, but it was totally unfair and totally double standard the way she was treated. So that's my opinion. Anyway. Oh, thanks for the host, Danny. E. Songbird says, I don't think you're wrong. There are certainly layers to calling or Hillary, on Hillary, yeah, that are pejorative. From what little I know about her, though, I think she wasn't adverse to it, but she really liked going by HRC. HRC is not disrespectful. That's cool. You know, Ronham, that was her name, right? Her maiden name, right? She didn't get my vote, but I certainly didn't vote for the guy who's in there now. Fair enough, you know. I'm not, I have my soapbox about politics and I have my opinion. I don't want to make anybody welcome here or unwelcome here if you don't agree with my politics, though. I just, clarifying that, right? Okay, so now that we are caught up with the chat, I'm going to move on. I know that there are some really great people on World Anvil who did vote for Donald Trump, and I'm certain that since they are reasonable people, they had reasonable reasons. One of the reasons I can understand is that clearly the Democrats are not getting the message that there are armed people armed with torches at the gates, right? That much is absolutely clear by their platform and the way they are treating the Bernie Sanders supporters instead of embracing them, their coalition. And they're making a terrible mistake. They're going to lose if they keep that up, and I think that's horrible. Okay. You got your map done, says Bob. Excellent. Yes, link would be good. Let people have a look at it. Maybe I'll have a look at it. Okay, in the meantime. Okay, comparison. You guys saw Showdown before, right? Okay, so now I'll take you to the Manuscripts section. So this is the I've published Once Upon a Time in the Weird West here on World Anvil. We're going to have a look at it in the presentation. The first chapter is available to the public. The rest of it is available to patrons. I really like this layout. First of all, you got my book cover. The title is very clear here. This is stats linked to my world that it's associated with. Oh, I should probably change that. It's not ongoing. It's done. So there's my blurb. Subject genres and trigger warnings, right? And then these are the unlocked chapters, these are the locked chapters. You can see all of that. My neighbor, I'm pretty close to the house next to me here. They're both technically on the same property. So if you hear yelling in the background, that's my neighbor guiding someone who's backing up their truck. And it's like right close outside my window, so I apologize for that. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. Thanks for promoting me, Siobhan. That's helpful. She says, or just buy the books. Can't disagree with you, Bob. I'll just say that. All right. Let's look at, okay, but yeah, anyway, I'll look at your map in just a moment. At any rate, you get an idea of the layout there. I really like the fact that you can just, here, I'll click on the first chapter. There it is. It's all laid out. You still have the graphic of the cover here and a table of contents here so you know where you are and you can follow. You know, I dislike one thing, and that is that the fact that the fonts are not really adjustable. They're adjustable for you to write it, but not for how you present it. But on the other hand, it's clear, it's clean. We've all been taught how to read a book, right? So navigation is not a problem. It just automatically does it for you, and there it is. And I've done very little with this that benefits from some of the features. Like one of the things I could do is go through and include links to the various articles to explain what are a gunslinger, what's a desperado, right? Would you like to look up information about my protagonist, Graham Walsh? You know, locations. That can all be done from the manuscripts so that people can just check things out as they go. And that is fucking cool. I mean, like, that makes it interactive fiction, right? You can put uh, media in it, so links to videos or to audio. One thing I've done is that I've been reading my story to my patrons. I'm almost finished reading the whole book at this point, right? What I'm going to do is until I get the audiobook made, I'm going to break it up into the chapters, and I'm going to include those as, you know, just me reading it, so nothing fancy, right? But I'm going to include those in the chapters as presented like this, right? And I mean, like, I think it does everything I need, plus it saves a lot of time. It preserves my formatting if I copy it in from Word, right? And Artie recently developed a utility that allows you to import from rich text to BB code and back. Rich text format is one of the formats that Word reads, so if you want to, you know, take this and immediately like make stuff usable by Word, you just export it, right, and adapt it from there, right, convert it from there into rich text, right. I will probably just keep using raw copy and paste for a while, copying things back and forth between here and Word. All right, so yeah, right, as far as that's why I think this is a superior software for long form fiction, and I'm going to be moving my manuscripts over. Right, going back to my manuscripts, is that my manuscripts or is this going to take me to the community manuscripts? That takes me to the community one. Okay, so I'll go back to my manuscripts. Oh, actually I should show you those, but okay, so here's my manuscripts. This one isn't open to the public because it's still in draft, it's not published. This is the 8th story in the Weird West Chronicles, and I am currently doing my drafting in manuscripts. When I'm done, I'll probably copy it back, right? And then format things like I notice little things, right? Little things sometimes as a writer kind of, you know, twig me, right? One thing is that I like curly quotes, but the standard format here uses straight quotes. You can see that the quotes change here. There's a curly quote, there's a curly quote. That's because I copied it in from Word. Here's the straight quotes, right? Because I just wrote it in there. So probably what I'm going to do is copy this stuff back into Word, right, when I'm done. Because this is, I'll tell you more about how why I'm doing it in manuscripts as opposed to Word when I've been using Word for years in a moment. But this is my plan for dealing with that. I'm going to copy it back, replace all the quotes with curly quotes, and then put them back just because I like the look of it better because I'm fussy, right? So I could also, if I wanted to, just find replace here and probably replace all the curly quotes with straight quotes, right? But I prefer the curly quotes, so that's how I'm going to do it. It won't take more than a couple minutes, right, once you're familiar with the software. Now, why I am editing in here, actually, you know what? First, I should check up on the chat, shouldn't I? Just to make sure I'm not getting too far ahead. Still needs pinning, but that's another day. Yeah, that's a thing. Esong asks, Sable, what did you think was a superior format to manuscripts? No, I think, I guess I wasn't clear. I think manuscripts is a superior format for long form fiction in particular when you're publishing on World Anvil to the prose template. I also think that manuscripts is a superior editor in many ways to Word if what you're doing is writing manuscripts. That I haven't explained yet, but I will in a moment. Right? No, manuscripts is I can't be happier with it. I'm really delighted by it, and I'm a bit of a Luddite. If I have something that works, I don't want to replace it. If it ain't broke, I don't want to fix it. right? I don't have time to learn the stuff that I need to know to do the things I need anyway, right? So, all of a sudden you're going to make me learn new technology. Like, you should have seen my rage back in the 90s when WordPerfect stopped being supported and we were forced to switch to Microsoft Word. The screaming went on for weeks. So, um, okay, so understand that I'm immediately opposed to anything new, right? I'm like, no, I don't want to do it, right? I'm like a cat. If it's new, I don't like it, right? Okay, except that World Anvil's manuscripts has, okay, first of all, it's taken a bunch of the extraneous stuff that you do not need when you are doing a raw manuscript as a writer out, right? It's just removed it. It's not there. It's not there to distract you, right? It's not something you have to spend extra time formatting or worrying about. It's just not there to be a problem, right? This stuff that you might have to worry about if you're trying to get something ready for a Kindle book, maybe, right? But there are better programs than Word to do that with, like Calibra, right? But it's just, so no distractions, right? Secondly, it's much more accessible online, right? For years, I teach a class on how to find time for writing when you don't have any, right? It's on the Cat Rambo's Academy for Wayward Writers, and it's $9. It's not expensive, but the point is, as part of that, right? One of the ways in which I have learned to find time for writing when time is limited is that I do everything on the cloud, basically, right? So I have been using Microsoft Word and Dropbox. Microsoft Word has a very useful, free to download, easy access, and fairly straightforward software, which is good, right, for your phone as well as for your PC or whatever. And there's also a like Dropbox or whatever your cloud format is, right? You can save it to the cloud and then you can access it wherever you are. And I've literally done writing while sitting in the car waiting for someone to run in and get groceries, right? Standing in the supermarket line, at the teller at the bank, waiting for my doctor, right? It's really handy, right? Sitting in the car when you're traveling, right? Rather than trying to drag out your laptop and the battery life, do you have enough of it, and or having to plug it in to charge somewhere in the car. I don't do any of that, right? I bring out my phone and I tippity tap away, right? So I like to have that, but Manuscripts works better for that. For one thing, because it has less crap in it, it loads faster. For another thing, it doesn't take up storage space, so it doesn't use nearly as much of your data, right? Every time you save something on your Word format, right, you end up using your cell phone data, and I mean, it's not huge. Word doesn't take up a huge amount, but it does take up some. Um, it will use up my data eventually. When it's all right there online already, it's not eating nearly as much of my data, right? So these are all, and it's easier to access, right? If there was an app that went right to Manuscripts, it would be like absolutely the perfect thing. So, but I still think it works better than Word. I have to with Word, you have to open your Dropbox, and then you have to download your thing from your Dropbox, and then you have to open it in editing format, and then you have to save the changes, and you'll do better. And there can be errors with that. Like, I've had entire manuscripts screw up because I was somewhere where I was shifting from, say, Wi-Fi to my data when I was in the process of saving, and it borked the whole file, right? I lost something like 40,000 words on a manuscript at one point doing that. Now I save a backup, but I don't have to with manuscripts because it's all right there. Dimitri already has it all backed up. So, yes. So that is my advice for why I think it's awesome. Sable wears wooden shoes. Sable is a Luddite. Hi, Aaron. Hi, honey. How are you? Siobhan says, that was like when I had to switch from ScriptSit on the TRS-80 to a word processor on an IBM type machine. I bet that was a nightmare. Yeah, work breaks. E-Song says, I remember that story. Oof. Yeah, I was, the screaming and crying was epic. I'm sure people thought someone was murdering me. This happened in the parking lot of a friend's building. I'm sure that they thought I was going to die. I was very angry. But, you know, you live and you learn. Dragon Love Water is here. Dazzlecat is here. Hi guys, nice to see you. Welcome. We are talking about manuscripts versus prose today, and I just finished doing my comparison and my thoughts on why manuscripts is the best software that I think you can use for doing long form fiction. And yeah. Oh, Red123 Wood followed me. Hello, nice to meet you. I don't think I've seen you on the channel before, and thank you for the follow. That's really great. Really appreciate it. Make me write a sentence. Okay, awesome. Awesome. I was hoping somebody would use that. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Because that's how that works. I have to do things and write. Okay. Depends how hungry you get and how good you were at hunting. It's about a day's ride. Good thing I'm a good hunter then. Piper said. Shouldering her rifle. Does that count as a sentence? Maybe not, eh? The scout scowled. You'll scare away all the game for clicks with that. Piper shrugged. It ain't going to matter. I'm a good shot. I'll only need to fire once. There we go. I think that probably counts as a sentencing. Awesome. Yeah, Red123 Wood says, work is not doing itself. No, it's not. No, it's not. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, if you're not familiar and you weren't here in my last stream, I have added those. I have, because I tend to follow the chat a lot, right? On Rowan's suggestions, so thank you for that, Rowan, who is not in the stream today, but I added make me write a sentence, make me write a paragraph, and that's basically, I have to do that, drop it and write that, right? And I have also added basically shut up and get some writing sprints done for, there's a 5-minute one, a 10-minute one, and a 15-minute one, and they're called Less Talk, More Write. You drop those, I have to do it. Right on the spot, we're doing a sprint. So that's the rule. In the sprinting streams, right? Like, please don't use that. Well, I don't know. You can ask Aaron if you can use that in his stream. Maybe he'll like that. He does world building stuff too. Yeah. All right. Writing now, says Red123. That's great. Hip hip, go go go. Awesome. Good for you. Thank you. That's great. I appreciate it. Oh, it was a paragraph, not a sentence. Oh, now I have to write it. Oh, okay. Sorry. Whoops. Whoops, whoops. All right. I'll get back to it. I made a mistake. Okay. Because I am a hunter then. Scout, scare away all game for clicks at that. Piper shrugged. It ain't gonna matter. I'm a good shot. I'll only need to fire once. Graham. I can't type today. Graham liked the self-confident set of her shoulders. And the firm gray shade firm and her firm tone. I think I like that better. Laura pursed her lips. Well, come on then. Turned her back, pointedly ignoring everyone but Piper. And vanished into the tree line. I gotta remember whether or not Piper is currently on her horse or not. No, she's not on her horse. Lightening up his neck, his irritation. Obvious. I agree. That's right, rude. Graham murmured quietly in his ear, scratching his mane. Piper didn't allow herself to be hurried. She collected her pack. Double checked Duchess's saddle and mounted up. Just one last look back at Graham. Accepting his nod as encouragement. follow the Elven Scout. Graham bit of his lip. I tried not to worry. There, I think that counts as paragraph, right? I mean, it's dialogue, so you kind of got to do a few things. I don't think it would be fair to do a paragraph, you know, like as, I mean, technically the 2 lines of that dialogue is paragraph, but it's not fair. Yeah, Dinosaur Bob says, I tried manuscripts for the first time with that short story, trivially easy to use. Yes, I like the interface. I like the fact that it is easy, that it is stripped down, that you can, you know, it's really straightforward. Esong says, I didn't know these were channel point available. My world has changed. Awesome. Yeah, work is not doing itself, Red123 reminded me. Awesome. I appreciate it. I really do. I kind of need the kick in the ass sometimes, so it's helpful. Siobhan says, I have 23,000 points to spend, so I can make her write a whole lot. Yes, you certainly could. Yeah. Bob says, Esong, you can set up any custom channel point thing you want. Yes, yes, you can. Those are totally custom channel point things. You know, the hardest part of doing that is finding the icons. I find, because I don't want to just use their standard little soap bubble thing that they give you as the default icon for any new thing. You know, and then setting it up so that it's small enough on the bigger size of the graphic can be a real pain in the butt. My advice is to change the mode and index the color, like save it as index color, and then it's a lot easier to keep the file size small enough for the 112 pixel size, because their size requirements are ridiculous. Right? Make her do 5 paragraphs! Walking Dead says, yes, it'd be fun. Walking Dead says, yes. Red says, it'd be fun. Author Goddess is here. Hello, welcome. Oh, 10 minutes. Let's talk more, right? Okay, that's where I saw it. So that's what we're doing. We're doing a sprint. I didn't even bring my thing in here, my phone. Okay, I should have known better. All right, it's 2:42 according to my clock. So that means I'm writing till 2:52. I'd be happy if you guys shared the sprint with me, right? And that's my rule. As soon as I see it in the chat, that's where we're doing it. So we're on. Thank you so much. That's awesome. All right. I'm moving on to the next chapter. All right, which I've already started, but I was changing details. Okay, just skimming it. Okay. Sending Piper off into what was likely hostile territory. Okay, and then I gotta rewrite this sentence. Help. It looked to his friend to stop short of clipping his cigar when he heard his name. I need you to take on some of this too, if I can take such a liberty. Woodhouse coughed. "I look like Summit diplomat to you, kid?" "That's the point." Graham sipped his coffee, relishing the heat on his raw throat. Oh, I have saved checks all over the place. Thank you very much. Do I need to save? I don't think I do. I think it automatically saves it. Yes, I think it does. I think it automatically saves it. We're going to go back and find out. Yep, it automatically saves. And I don't see a save tool here, actually. But I appreciate that. What am I going to do with those? I have to wait. Hold on to those. Oh, thank you for the follow, B Gloom. Welcome. We're doing a 10-minute writing sprint. We're 3 minutes into it. And then I will resume the chat. Italia had some really cool music going on in her channel. I was listening to it. I'm like, oh, that sounds like Western music. That's cool. But all right. He'll take something a little less sweet on the next round. Okay, no, I was ahead of that. That's the point. Graham sipped his coffee, relishing the heat on his raw throat. Dwarves appreciate plain speaking folk, and no one's lacking enterprising businessmen. I wish Wesson were here, but he ain't, so I'm hoping you'll take this on instead. Woodhouse leaned back in his chair. You're barmy, mate. But fine. Actually, that should be fine, I think. He's a Cockney. I'll see what I can do. I do a terrible Cockney accent. I can picture it in my head, I can't say it. Graham nodded in satisfaction. Thank you, partner. Consider yourself redeputized. He muttered something under his breath. Graham was sure it was neither a prayer nor a compliment. What about Davy? He asked suddenly. Yes, Pete? Davy asked when he heard his name, but Woodhouse waved him off. That was a good question. Graham bit his lip as he considered it. Chewed, I think, because I used bit in the previous chapter. Now, chewed his lip as he considered it. I think he's best off with you. You're more like to keep him out of trouble, and dwarves and gnomes ain't like to shoot first and ask questions later. Woodhouse nodded as he finished whipping his cigar. Boy, you're a bad influence, what you are. Join me in the smoking room? Okay, so date will take 2 minutes left in the sprint. All right, we're actually over time on the sprint, which is good because it means I was involved in what I was doing. Cool. I don't know if anybody else was sprinting. I hope that you were and enjoying it. Just so that I can, oh wow, there's been a lot of conversation. Okay. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch up on the conversation here, and then I'm going to take a quick bio break. And when I come back, I'm going to show the starting of a new manuscript, hopefully, right? I'm not writing from scratch, though. I'm copying stuff over that I've already done because I'm in the process of using this as an editing format. So if I see another, shut up and write, I promise I will do it as soon as I, see it, right? But not until after the break, because I have to pee, right? So what it might be is I'll take the break and then I'll come back and do a sprint or whatever, okay? And thank you for using that. That's fun, and I appreciate that, DM Stretch. It's great. Just so I can use a new shiny, he says. Paragraph end sprint, says Siobhan. Yes, says Red. Thank you, Red. You're very helpful at being an encouraging, get writing done person, and that is amazing. I appreciate that a lot. That's great. Dragon Love Water says, by the way, for those who were present, I finished the Stay Moist article. May edit some later today since writer Greg hasn't had another stream since I finished it. He will be on for sprints in the morning tomorrow, says Siobhan. That's great. Oh, and I didn't look at the map. Okay, hold on. I gotta back up and look at the map. Where is the map? We're gonna look at the map before we do anything else, because this is not nice. Okay, because Bob worked hard on it, and he wanted to show us, so we're looking. Here's the map. Oh, that's nice. Oh, I like that. Clearwater, Oakwood, Meadows End. This sounds like a very elfy place. Four Rivers, logical name. Laketon, Faywood Lake, Dryads Falls, Faybridge Crossing, Spud Barrow, that's interesting. Carnstown, awesome. Yeah, you wrote about Carnstown, didn't you? I read an article about Carnstown. Yeah, Carnes Lake, the MTC. Ooh, the MTC, mysterious. Okay, we only have one layer so far, but wow, what a layer. That's beautiful. I want to go there. That looks like a place I want to have vacations. It's amazing. Carnes Lake. A Carn related to Kern or Hearn? I'm curious. That's really. I'm gonna leave that up. I'm gonna leave that up. We're gonna come back to that in a bit. Okay. That's beautiful, Bob. That's great. I am very glad I set up those channel point things. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, I'm curious about your Stay Moist article there too, Dragon Love Water. I'm interested to see it. Truth or dare chat. How would we confirm dares? Yeah. Red says truth or dare chat. Dragon Love Water said how would we confirm their dares? I don't know. Dazzlecat, so anyone know if my half troll, half black dragon, you're evil. That's amazing. I see we thought of that, right? Half troll, half black dragon. The only thing you're gonna be able to kill it with is fire, right? Because fire and acid are the things that kill trolls, and it's immune to acid. It's a half black dragon, right? You're evil. We thought of that before in our game too. You can ask Aaron about that on his stream. Yeah. With my half troll, half black dragon song of BBEG, becoming a Dracolich with necro healing troll style OBOP. Fuck yes. But on the other hand, maybe it's an OP game, right? Like, we have characters we've been playing for a really long time that are like massive epic level. Like when they do things, right? Empires shift, right? So if you're playing on that level, I don't think anything is too OP. Just, my advice if you're DMing for that kind of campaign is make sure that you give all the players stuff of equal power then, and make sure the bad guys also have stuff of equal power, otherwise it's no fun. It doesn't matter what your power level is as long as the bad guys are a challenge, right? So if you don't have any villains in your world that are like tough enough to handle the heroes at their super power level, make a hero from another world or a villain from another world show up and start creating problems. Or maybe a cabal of villains from another world starts showing up and causing problems. You know, some extra dimensional mage. Have Thanos show up. You know, come on, right? Like, you know, make it tough. Make it tough. So, let's talk more right. Okay, after the break. Um, Edit showcases tomorrow evening. That's for writer Greg. So yeah, yeah, I like writer Greg's stream. I recommend it if you haven't seen it. Uh, yeah. Party killed his troll mother, almost killed the dragon father. They did take one dragon eye before he escaped. Thanks for the save checks, but it automatically saves in manuscripts, which is another really awesome beneficial feature that I think makes it a superior editing software overall to Word. I'm going to do the whole thing in manuscripts first, then I'm going to move it back into Word to do the final edit. And I don't know if you were here before, but in a previous stream I was talking about how changing the format of what you're writing or reading it to yourself out loud can be very helpful ways to find errors that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed. So that I'm going to take care of that with that option as well. Double the save. Yes, Dinosaur Bob was agreeing with me. OP depends on your party. At first level, one normal troll is OP. At 20th level, gods are vulnerable. Exactly. They're level 8, and it was an awesome battle. That sounds a little bit much, right? Is he the bad guy, or is he one of the characters? If he's the bad guy, then he could be a good nemesis. Black Dragon's plot, right? Yes, Manuscripts does autosave too. I believe autosave was a feature of Manuscripts before it was site-wide each song, and it's pretty cool. I agree. Yeah. People teasing E-Song about her typo. Yeah, Dinosaur Bob has good advice there about the challenge rating. Do the calculation. What is the thing's challenge rating, 5e rules, or level Pathfinder rules? Compare to the party, you'll have your answer. Yes, never make anything more than 4 levels greater in challenge rating than the party, unless you want them to be a nemesis, right? Absolutely under no circumstance make anything greater than 8 challenge levels higher than the party, unless you want them to be a behind-the-scenes manipulator. Oh my goodness, Dazzlecat, I thought you were being funny. I would have answered seriously. I'm sorry. Yeah. Kuropoi says, I started using manuscripts today and wrote a few hundred words of fiction for the first time in more than 10 years. Very satisfying. It certainly encourages that, doesn't it? Because it simplifies the whole process. And good for you. Congratulations on starting back on the writing path. 10-minute sprint, all time. Is it okay, Dragon? I missed the save checks. No, I caught, well, now I did, right? Because remember, the rule is when I see the sprint, I have to stop what I'm doing and go do it. So I didn't see what was going on in the chat, and I didn't look at my studio manager. Sorry, but yeah, maybe I should. Okay, I'm not taking away the save checks simply because I don't always write on formats that have autosave. 90% of the time I will be. Maybe I should take them out now that I'm moving to manuscripts for writing. That was a question from Esong. Esong says, I've got 17K. I think that means Sable needs to come up with a big Twitch challenge. 20K channel point that she deletes a paragraph. No, I'm not doing that. That's gonna get out of hand, and I'll get like, depressed because people will save up, and then I'll end up deleting a whole manuscript, and that would be no fun. Uh-oh. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna take my bio break right now, actually, because this is going on for a bit, and you're right. There's writing that needs to be done. So, all right, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, in the interest of getting through chat, I'm going to skip through the cross chatter. Right. So if you guys were talking to each other, then I'm not going to mention it. Dragon Love Water says, I find that even black coffee doesn't feel all that great on a raw throat with a highlighted message. Not a huge deal, but something I observed. Aha, but you see, I have one of these, which is, you know, and it looks terrible, but I'm going to show you anyway. No, can I? No, it won't reach. Okay, so I have one of those coffee warmer things on my desk, the old-fashioned coffee warmers that's just like an element in a plastic thing with an indicator light that's orange that tells you if it's on or off, so it's hot coffee, right? So that feels good on the throat. I like it. They were talking in the Inner Sanctum channel today about this smart coffee cup that you connect to the Internet of Things, and then it heats your coffee to the desired temperature that you configure, and it informs you when your coffee has reached that temperature and keeps it there. And I'm like, okay, I got my coffee element for $5 at Walmart. This thing that is this cup costs 80 pounds. Anyway, sometimes the old technology is best. I don't know, like, you know, we've got this attitude, and I think that this is actually regressive. Look, just because it's got a computer attached to it or the internet doesn't make it cooler, right? You know, like, here we are. It's the 21st century, and we are talking to each other with telegraphs, right? You know, I'm not sure that's an improvement, you know? Why do something that costs 80 pounds when you can do it for something that costs $5? You know? Okay. Others may like it, I don't know, says Dragon Love Water. Yeah, it's fair. Everybody to their own. Okay, so skipping all the cross chatter. Red says, I used one chip in Streamlabs for a song. I'm sorry, I've got Streamlabs set up, but I can't figure out how to make it show me what I need to see on my Stream Manager and whatnot. I've got my Stream Manager set up on my laptop, so I don't know how, like, what did you request? Because if I'm not going to get copyright dinged for it, I will play it, right? If or are you trying to make me sing? Because I have that as an option too. Aegon says, just finished dinner. How's the writing going? Pretty well, actually, because people are redeeming channel points today to make me write, even though my intention when I set out the stream was to show you guys a new feature, right? Or how to use a feature. So we will still do that, but I still have one writing sprint I owe you guys. But good to, you know, good to see you back, Aegon. Trying to figure out your primers so that you can recruit a new playing group. Yeah, I hear that. Bob says, my dream is to be able to afford a high-end Keurig, the one that auto-loads and talks to Alexa, so I can walk up to it, put a cup in place, and say, tea, Earl Grey, hot. Yes. That's so cool. Isn't it cool? Yeah. Red says, I suck at writing. I've only been doing it for 6 months now, but I suck. Okay, come on, no. No. I bet you don't suck. I bet you're actually much better than you think you are, because we're our own worst critics. And besides the point, you know, the only way to get better is practice. People don't give enough credit, in my opinion, to the fact that writing is a skill, right? It's not just a talent. There's a talent to having a feel for a good story. Writing it is a skill. You have to train it like any other skill. It's like plumbing or, you know, farming or, you know, construction, right? It's a skill. It's a working class skill, right? So you have to train. And the only way to train in a practical trade is to do it. Yeah, thanks for highlighting time, Siobhan. Yeah, I agree with Aegon. Everyone thinks writing is awful. Their writing is awful to start with, but don't compare yourself to other people. Write for you and not other people. Esong tried to warn me it was time to, but but I'm having fun writing, so keep going. Yeah, well, I did. Dazzlecat says, Red, there's a truism. You won't learn to write well until you have written 1,000,000 words. That is a saying that goes on, and it sounds overwhelming, doesn't it? Let me show you something that will encourage you. NaNoWriMo.org. Okay, I'm gonna go incognito for a minute because I don't want you guys to see my password. Oh good, it didn't show the password anyway. Alright. Okay. So that was my latest Camp Nano. Let me show you my profile. You see that number? 874,737. That is the number of words that I have written in NaNoWriMo projects over the past 10 years. That represents maybe now with the World Anvil too, this might represent about 20% of the writing that I have done in that time. If I'm overestimating, right? If I'm being too generous. So it's much easier than you think to get that 1,000,000 words. That's my advice for that. Dang, no make noise button. Follows, raids, and subscribes. Big noise. Just saying. No. Okay, sorry. That's fine. Esong's working on another country. 162 words. I don't know how many words I had. I was sprint chatting, says Dazzlecat. Walking Dead Lover did 236. Good job. Esong did 54. Dazzlecat, my friend, I wrote 2,000,000 words. DM Stretch says 64 words plus editing, a spelling mistake I found, which also meant I had to open Fantasy Grounds to just change one letter. Oh my god, what a pain. Because Fantasy Grounds takes forever to load. It's one big drawback. We use it hours, yeah. Yes, your map is lovely. Spudboro, too. The Strawberry Festival? Oh, yeah, I remember. That was cool. That was really cool. Didn't they get a disease? Dragon Love Water is just, yeah. It's like potatoes. Boil them, mash them, put them in a stew. Yeah. Yay, channel points, says Scribe of Nikati, highlighting his message. Hi, Scribe, nice to see you. Everything dies when enough axe is applied. That's right. We had a character who used to say, it was one of Aaron's characters, I believe, that may the axe of reason penetrate the skull of ignorance. And he had a character of twin axes, one of which was named Logic, and the other one was named Reason. He was a Philodox werewolf in Werewolf the Apocalypse. Unless they are immune to axe, says Aegon. Nothing's immune to, well, yeah. Gelatinous cubes are immune to axe, I think. Empires shift and gods take notice. Yeah, when you get high enough level characters. When people say they're immune to axe, you just haven't applied enough axe, says Scribe, which I was about to say. Yeah, the problem is when you do that to, like, some undead, they just spawn a whole bunch of them, or hydras make more heads, or, trolls knit themselves back together. Let's talk more right. Okay, so this is where I ran into Let's Talk More Right, so we're going to do another 10-minute sprint. We're going to do it right now. And then I'll catch up on the rest of the chat after. The time is 3:23. You know what? That's a really cool map. Okay, I'm going to find an online timer. Do you think that I could have gotten my phone while I was out there? No. I mean, like, I'm a dipshit, right? So. Countdown timer, that's the one I used before. Alright, so 10 minutes. And we're on. You know, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit in the chat here. You guys tell me, do you prefer to hear somebody muttering to themselves, repeating the words that they are writing when they're doing a sprint, or would you prefer silence? Because I think there's something to be said for both of them, and I want to make sure I'm not distracting people who are also writing in the sprint. I like muttering and clickety-clack, says Dazzlecat. E-Song says, my favorite thing is hearing the clickety-clack of the keyboard. Anything else is extra. Okay, so that's 2 votes for either clickety-clack and muttering or just clickety-clack. I don't care. Dragon Love Water says, doesn't bother me either way, with a highlighted message. Thank you for that. Ambivalent, says E-Song. Alright, I'll mumble. Sometimes I'll forget to mumble. Sometimes I'll be involved in what I'm doing. Lots of great chat about what to do with a cross Black Dragon Troll. I would get into that more if I had more time. Okay. What? Demanded Woodhouse, narrowing his eyes, but Graham waved at him to shush. He cupped a hand around one of his little ears and strained to listen. His heart started beating a little faster. Where was Piper? Was it an avalanche? It was exactly the right time of year. But no. Was too steady. Too rhythmic. For that. Now that he was listening more closely. realized sounded more like a herd on the move. Not a stampede either. Pushed open. Patio door. And move into cupped his hand over his eyes. And down the street. Now, some of the townsfolk were also turning, emerging from shops and homes to look. Also emerging from shops and homes. Sprinting nervously up the mountain, but Graham could see at the end of the street there was a large moving mass. See that up the tracks, the railroad tracks, just to be clear. There was a large moving mass of brown and red. Let me know your thoughts on this one, gang. I'm not going to have a chance to check it till after the sprint, but basically you'll notice that Graham is getting the noise before anyone else, and he's getting it more clearly than anyone else, realizing earlier that it's not, at least I hope that's coming through, right? And it's because he is a half-elf, and elves have keener hearing than humans do. Is that coming across? That's what I want to know. So, you know, if you're not sprinting, right? If you're sprinting, worry about your own stuff. So. Resisted the urge to curse. But his grimace must have been obvious to Woodhouse. Have followed Is it? It's the Mounties, he said, as if we needed any more complications. Well, that's a good place to stop anyway. That's horrible, that noise, isn't it? Sounds like an alarm clock. It's like, ah, I have to go to school. I just realized my files here, my folders are out of place and they're not going to appear underneath my title. So I'm moving them so that they do. Otherwise they won't show up on my manuscript when I set it up. Like when you go to read it. I've run into that problem before. There. Well, how do you guys do? I felt I did pretty well. I think I was here. Notice we have a tiny word counter for the total in this chapter here in the corner. I love that. Word, not wood counter. Haha, wordcounter.net. Eh, 150 words. Nothing to sneeze at, nothing to, you know, brag about either, but I was thinking about it. Okay. So, now I'm going to try to catch up on the chat a bit. I am not going to read any of the cross chatter. Not because I'm not interested, but because we're starting to run short on time. So, DM stretch drops axe and uses disintegrate. Okay, that was funny and had to... Yes, you can get rid of trolls that way. That works. Aegon says, also remember, a weaker villain may take advantage of brains over brawn and set traps and ambushes. Yes. Way underused in many campaigns. Esong highlights her message saying you need to get rid of the save checks then. I was thinking about that, but I also probably now I should, because I'll more often be working in manuscripts than I will in Word. When I was working in Word, which was until recently, then I kind of needed it, but now I probably don't. You're probably right. So I will get rid of it after this stream. How about save to backup, says Dazzlecat. That's a good idea. Okay. Let's do that. I'll do what I was going to do with it. I'm going to make sure that this document is shut down on my other computer. Yes, it is. Okay. So, open up Word. I kind of needed to do this anyway, so. Okay. Switch my capture here to Word. Theoretically, anyway. Okay, it's being difficult today. Alright, now it's working. I don't know why on this computer, but I have to fire up my navigation pane every damn time. It's such a pain. Okay, I keep these old things on here because they are... But I suppose I don't need them. I will delete all this stuff. I generally keep the titles from previous manuscripts and just copy them into a new manuscript when I'm doing this kind of stuff, because then I end up with... Oh, I left that for a reason. Why did I leave that? What is that? I don't even remember writing that now. No, I changed my mind about how I handled that. Okay, so, yeah, save to backup. What I can do is save my changes into Word, which I was going to do anyway as a backup. So, let's do that. We'll start with a little ear chapter. Remember I said I was going to correct the curly quotes. So we'll just be copying and pasting that over top of all this stuff. You can do italics and bold and all the important stuff, by the way, in... Oh, why did you do that? That's not what I wanted. Okay. In that case... No, there was a way I did this before. I just don't remember how I did it, so I will... Yeah, I think this is where I started here. Why did I do that? Paste. Because I'm used to moving things around in my other manuscript. Okay, copy. And what's my formatting here? Well, you know what? I should have like a standard formatting that I've saved in Word, don't I? Oh. Okay, 1 second here. Okay. There we go. And now, still didn't deal with my curly quotes, so we can do that too. Place quotes, or double quotes. I can't see if that's double quotes. With double quotes. Place all. Nope, no need to search the rest of the document. Now we're going to replace those with those. That's apostrophes or single quotes. No. There. And now it's all saved in curly quotes, like I like it. Save. So there's one of the save checks used. Now we're going to use it for the second part here. Did I call this the hotel before? But now I've called it Border Town. Clearly I need to rename this. I want to name it something like the situation becomes more complicated, but let's, that doesn't sound good, so we'll think about that in a few. Right now, I think I will go from the first paragraph, which I know I didn't change, but I don't remember what I changed afterwards, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to do this. Why are you being a pain in my ass? Obviously, I need to rework my formatting. Okay, fine. Now we're done with that. Why are you a different size? This is another reason why Word is kind of a pain in the ass, right? Okay, so we're going to do it again. Replace all the quotes. Replace all the single quotes. Save. So, I think that answers the save checks, doesn't it? Force damage and disintegrate is the end game, yeah. I like that. Have I gotten a chance to look at your prologue, Walking Dead Lover? I understand if you're still busy. I have not, but we could do that probably. You know what? I'll do that today. I'm still working on trying to go through all the birthday articles. Okay, if you want to if you're gonna use channel points for it, we'll do it like as soon as my regular time is done, and then we will just be a little late going over to Kahuna, if you like. But if it's okay with you, I would rather save that till next time, because I don't like overlapping the next streamer too much, so that's just me personally. But if you really want me to get it done, which I don't blame you, it has been a while, you asked a while ago, and I'm sorry, then I'll do it. Okay. Take a bio break before the bio break, says Z-Song, because I talk too much. And my sprinting about, I'm working on the rough draft of my latest Weird West manuscript at the moment. Okay. Really interesting cross chatter about the troll dragon. Scribe says I was watching a documentary about Epstein, but I ended up having to stop. Can't blame you there. There's only so much of that subject matter I can take at one time myself. Be a nightmare if this troll dragon picked up fire immunity too, eh? Yep, it would. Then you'd just have disintegrate. That would be it. Or, spheres of annihilation or something. Yes, Scribe of Nakati is also a good one to ask about documentaries on Russian culture, which I'm sure you know, Isam. Siobhan says, I just realized I have a wall of text which is all dialogue. Going to need to break it up a bit. The way to do that is to add body language, right? Sometimes people say things more with the way they move and the expressions on their faces than they do with what they say. So that's a good way to break that up, right? Also, if it's all exposition, there may be a different way to do that, right? If you're doing an as you know, Bob kind of passage where two characters are talking to each other, but the purpose is not really to explain something to the character in the dialogue, the purpose is more to have an excuse to explain things to the reader. There's usually better ways to do that. So, a couple of approaches. DM Start says, okay, time to stock up on the Bofors AA guns then. Yeah. Darth Nicholas says, hello, everyone that sneaked in while I wasn't looking. I'm sort of sprinting my way through planning our school year and listening in at the same time, which is awesome. Dragon Love Water has a good question. These are the kind of questions, by the way, this kind of stuff. If you're looking for something to talk to Aaron about, this is the kind of stuff to do on his stream. Not that I mind answering them from my opinion, but this is exactly what he's here for, right? Thinking of half dragons, when a dragon is in human shape, does it take human amounts of booze to get it drunk, or dragon amounts of booze, says Dragon Love Water? The answer is, does his constitution score change, right? Does he still have a dragon's constitution, right? Or it rather, they, right? Do they still have a dragon's constitution in a human form, or does their score change? If their score changes, then human amounts will be fine. If their score doesn't change, clearly they need draconic amounts of booze. I have special booze that specifically gets dragons drunk, by the way, and it's poison to everybody else. It's an in-world thing. The mentor pontificating. Yeah. My suggestion is submit that to critique sometime, because that could go either way, right? If it's Siobhan, if it's the mentor pontificating and the information is actually useful to the character and is not boring, right? Doesn't become an info dump all at once, then sure, break it up with body language, right? If it is entirely an as you know, Bob dialogue, cut it, right? You can reveal other things with, not the whole thing, but cut some of it. You can reveal other details later, right? That's my general advice. But to know which it is, I would have to see it. Interesting that Esong remembers Dinosaur Bob having spider silk being used for military purposes in his world. How did they get a hold of the silk? That's an interesting question. We've done that. Really cool roleplay stories. Yeah, the novel is called Wolfbound and is set up in Manuscripts, says Walking Dead Lover. It looks awesome, although it's still in private only due to wanting some feedback on it. Yes, I am sorry. It looks really interesting, by the way. Walking Dead Lover's World is basically like, it sounds to me like what would have happened in the world of Underworld if the vampires had won, right? So basically the werewolves are subjugated by the vampires, and it sounds really interesting. I can't wait to check it out. It's totally my gig. So, okay. Walking Dead Lover says to you, Songbird, it's like Game of Thrones meets Vikings meets Dungeons and Dragons meets Supernatural. That sounds cool. Ember, says Siobhan the writer. Maybe, yeah, lasers for half trolls, half dragons. You guys are insane. Okay, like I said, I'm ignoring all the cross chatter. It's a very interesting conversation, but we're running out of time. 10K tabs, says Dazzlecat, yes. Actually, I only have 6 today. I'm not doing too bad. Okay, so now we're where the which do you prefer? I've been looking for the right sound file to add to my sprint timer, says Bob. It's impossible to find a free Asian gong or Oriental gong soundbite. I can help you. There is a song. Okay, go to Technoax on YouTube. There is a song there that is called uh, oh, I don't remember, but it's got an obvious Asian picture, right? And it starts with a loud gong, right? So, Tiger something, I think, is what it's called. But, and all of Technoax's music is copyright free. Siobhan says the muttering distracts her. But you mutter! You mutter when you're writing! I've listened to your stream! You mutter! Okay. Wooden spoon beating on a pan soundbite? Not a bad idea. When you're done sprinting, I think you fully sold me on switching to Manuscripts, Sable, says Darth Nicholas. Do the word counts in there add to your world word count, or are they stored separately? Let's find out. I don't know the answer to that, so I will check. Okay, so we're going to go back to capture. Okay, right now it's on the Anvilite Streamer Core homepage. Okay, we will go to Borderland. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to go open the Weird West here. Edit world. So I can see my word counter. Because it'll be somewhere in here, won't it? Settings. Utilities. No, no, no. That's the dangerous place. Does anybody remember where I find that, the world word count? In the meantime, I'll check this stuff. Esong did 184 words. Great. Siobhan said only 115, but I did a coffee sprint at the beginning. Good job. 299 words from Walking Dead Lover. You continue to impress me. Quarter of a page and working on paper, says Dazzlecat. That's amazing. Esong says, designing a sentient city. Excellent. Lots of fun thinking of the mischief that could occur. There is a book called The City Who Fought. It's connected to the Anne McCaffrey books, and it might give you some ideas. They do it all with like computers, but you can steal stuff for magical cities if that's what you're doing. Online writing sprints for school papers, says Dragon Love Water. My horizons have been broadened. That's excellent. Bob says Matt Colville released an excellent YouTube discussion on traps last week and why they're underused. I can tell you why they're underused because they're a lot of damn work to come up with, and B, often your players will just go around them anyway, or C, they won't go the route you expected them to go, so they won't end up triggering the trap, or D, they become so accustomed to the way that traps work that they just deal with them, right? So unless you're, being very specific, I generally find it's not worth the energy, but that's me. Yeah. Colville is worth a follow on his YouTube. I'll have to check him out. Matt Colville, eh? Okay. It's spazzing while I'm backing it up in Word or whatever you're doing. It keeps going back and forth between Word and a Black Moon picture, says Walking Dead Lover. Yes, that is because the software here does not capture Word properly, which for me personally is yet another good reason to change over to Manuscripts, because it makes it easier to stream. So if you're streaming, that may be a thing too, right? And my first few Diane Wright streams, people were looking at that and going, "Is it a subliminal message? Buy my books!" So, no, it's totally me. It is distracting. That's one way to get chat to slow down. My prologue is fairly long, 2,600 words, maybe a little more, says Walking Dead Lover. As you know, Dinosaur Bob, World Anvil is an amazing tool for world building. Excellent one there, Esong. That's great. Way to use the expression literally. Dinosaur Bob's people farm cave spiders for their spider silk. That's great. Siobhan says, I've got my tab total to 17 today. Woot! My laptop does not look this good. Walking Dead Lover says with a highlighted message, it's not exactly like that in terms of Underworld. My world has the Etude Empire, vampires, and the Moonlight Expanse, werewolves, which are at war with each other like Underworld. Exotic pets are a thing, and the alpha heir of the Winter Moon Pack becomes the exotic pet of my main character. They are also mates. How interesting. So a little bit of dominant submission kind of thing going on in the story, a little bit of romance. Totally cool with that. That's great. I like reading that kind of thing. Could be fun. Okay. Articles and categories is where I find it. Okay, thank you. I will go there. I always leave the tips because you never know when you might need them. I'm probably at a point where I shouldn't, though. Statistics, is that what I want? Yes. No, that's liked articles. That's not what I want. Oh! Okay, so currently I have 40,222 words. So, let's find out. Blah, blah. What did I say for a number? I better type that in, eh? Just a second. Wrong thing. Okay. Weird rest. Okay, so this is total words I have. This is actually world I just don't have. Oh, thanks, Siobhan. You're ahead of me. Figures. That's great. Okay, so blah, 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 blah. Black. You know what? I'm just gonna make up random words. Just to check it out. Okay. Now let's see if our total has changed when I reload the page. It does not look like it. It still tells me I have 40,222 words. So it looks like it's keeping track of its own separate total. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. speaking of Matt Colville, he does great content and knows his stuff, says DM Stretch. Trouble is he seems to edit out all of his pauses and breaths, and he's very enthusiastic. So it's like a solid block of him blasting at the camera. I feel like I'm pinned to my chair going, whoa! Much prefer great GM's laid back, relaxed cadence, much easier to listen to. Yeah, sometimes that overexcited style is a bit much for me. I don't like it when I have to... Like, I like enthusiasm. I don't like it when I have to pause the video to understand what the fuck it was you just said. You know? Okay. Siobhan says, yes, I mutter, which is why, when sprinting, other people muttering distracts me because I stop what I'm doing to listen. Oh, well, that makes no sense, you silly woman. Okay. 17 tabs slacker, says Aegon. Okay. Aegon says, I'm easily at 40 or more when I'm writing all the research materials. Yeah, I hear you. I should have written an as you know line. Yeah. Makes sense, E-Song. I kind of like that for tracking nano word count versus articles I may work on for the month, says Darth Nicholas. Oh, that one always seems to update slower than the page totals. Well, okay. So it does actually matter when you're in manuscripts? Because I don't know, right? Bob says, you'll know you got a first edition printing if your copy has a line that starts blah blah. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Alright, we're already at 5 after. I have one more thing that I wanted to do before we called it quits. So hopefully it should only take a moment. Right. What we're going to do is we're going to switch over to... Okay, I have to check and see if this one's open on my computer. I think it is. Yes, it is, so I better shut that down. That's me using my Word and whatnot. So, okay, so I'm going to switch over here to Toy Soldier Saga, which is where I intend to start my new manuscript. Now, I don't have a cover picture for it yet, and I'm not happy about that. I've got, like, something I could use as a placeholder, but it's an old image. It was intended for when this was originally a fan fiction thing, and I don't really, you know, like, it's not updated. I don't remember where I got some of the assets in it, right? So I may have to look for that some other time. But first, we're going to create a new manuscript. I love the fact that Dimitri put this clip from Mulan here because I think it's hilarious and it always inspires me. I really wish that, you know what, I'm going to open it in a different window and then put it on pause because I still want to listen to it, but I can't do it while I'm on stream. It's not fair. Mute. If YouTube actually responded enough to mute it. Yes, they did. Good. Haha. It takes them forever to let me pause the damn thing, but muting is instant. Okay. Now we pause. Back to what I was doing. Hopefully I didn't just bork the whole stream. I threatened to, apparently. Okay. Still got that. That's wrong. Okay. Let's get down to business. So we're going to title the manuscript. I like to do that before I do anything else. A few good elves. I do not have a manuscript cover at this point. Manuscript back cover summary. Well, I have a thingy where I have that cover page, which tells me where I've got my blurb, right? So I might as well just copy it over. Okay. Okay, stream's still managing it. Good. There's my synopsis. When Elven star pilot Shandar Sunfall lied about his age to join the Avalonian Navy, he hoped to defend his people against their ancient enemies, the Orcs. But he soon learns the war is no great adventure. Will this young starfarer survive the dangers and the horrors of the Second Interstellar War, and at what cost? So we're going to use that for now. It's not the best, but I can make it prettier later. Genres. Always an interesting one. Well, we start with space opera, right? I knew you would come up. Good stuff. I'm just going to type in fantasy because I'm not sure what kind of options we have there. Okay, so science fantasy applies. I'd say epic fantasy applies. I don't see black powder fantasy listed here, unfortunately. But, okay. Science fantasy. Epic fantasy. I considered fantasy adventure, but I don't think it's lighthearted enough for that. It's English. Now, let's see what trigger warnings I can find in here, because they fortunately allow trigger warnings. Graphic violence. Sexual violence. Torture? Did they have that? They do not. Yes, they do. Torture. I think that's sufficient. Yes, it has all of that. It's a war novel, what can I say? Alright. Access. Private. Crew. Notice that I have like some subscriber groups in here. This is an interesting thing about subscriber groups, right? I have stuff in here that are like, you know, the subscription ones, crew, ables, bosuns, masters, right? I have my campaigns, old school and the new breed, and then I've got a bunch of self-assigned groups, which I had to give letters to, otherwise they appeared in the wrong order. It's basically, have you read the book before this? Because otherwise, you know, and you can select them if you want, because they're self-assigned groups, but what that means is that if you haven't read that book, it's a spoiler, right? And you're gonna give yourself spoilers. And you want to give yourself spoilers? I don't give a shit. Go ahead. You know, totally your call. All right, so we're not going to do manuscript covers right now. Chapter 1. Scene 1. Now I'm going to create all the front matter later, but basically what I'm doing here is I'm just going to copy and paste stuff. Actually, yeah, I can do my acknowledgements and my dedication. That's simple enough. Front matter. Get rid of all these extra lines because we don't need them. I would like these to be centered. I think I'd like this to be centered. That didn't work very well, did it? Okay. Ah, looks okay. There, and now I've started a new manuscript. Right, and this is what I'm going to do is copy stuff in there. Notice it's got all the basic stuff. Formatting, inserts, we can do columns, we can do lists, we can preview it, we can print it, we can add media to it. Generally, they advise you to add media as their own scene. Right, so chapter 1, I'm going to want to rename to front matter. And what I've been doing is making sure you can tell, right? So that's the important stuff like copyright information, etc. I'm not going to bother renaming the scenes. I suppose I could do them as separate scenes. Maybe I should do that just to show you how that works. I will. So here, there's my acknowledgements. Scene 1, we'll call acknowledgements. And now we'll go here and we'll add a new scene. And make sure that it's underneath the front matter. The title of the scene is Dedication. Bang. Yeah, so now I've gotten a start on it. And basically, you just, whenever you want to write a new scene, you separate it in there. God damn it. Okay. Once again, the thing is still set up to run stuff. Okay. I thought we shut that off, but we didn't, apparently. Okay, so that's my last demonstration of how that works. And I hope that this stream has been helpful. I'll kind of catch up on some things. Yeah. Yeah, I open up a million tabs too. People are talking about using different tabs for research. I had almost 50 tabs open during summer camp on 3 different windows, says Siobhan, because I couldn't get them all in one window. Wow. I need more RAM to keep up with my Chrome usage, says Esau. Yeah, I have 8 gigabytes of RAM on my computer and still need to reboot every now and then because I overload my cache, says Siobhan. I'm going to go over to Kahuna now, says Dragon Love Water. Think I'll join you, Dragon. See everyone in a few minutes. Yep. Thanks for joining me. We are going to head over to Kahuna right now. I hope that was of some use, but I see I bled people at the end. That's all right. The raid shout is prepare to be boarded. And thanks for joining me today, guys. We'll see you on Wednesday. Oh, right. No, we'll see you on Tuesday. You guys wanted me to come on to talk about the storyteller system a bit. So I will be on at least briefly on Tuesday on Ask an Old GM. And tomorrow night, of course, we stream Toy Soldiers Old School at 6 p.m. Pacific time, and that is our RPG. All right. And we're off. Bum, ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum, bum.